Welcome to Lead with Possibility. One of the biggest blind spots for many founder-owned businesses is pricing. In this conversation, pricing expert Andrew Gregson shares practical insights to help business owners understand how pricing affects profitability, decision-making, and long-term success. Because when your pricing works, your business works. Let's dive in.
Okay, first question. Why should business owners concern themselves with pricing instead of increasing sales or cutting costs?
So to give you a little bit of background, I've owned 5 businesses. I've consulted for over 25 years, and I worked for an American consultancy for a while, and everybody has the same response. I need more profit. I have to get more sales. I have to cut my costs and then count all the paper clips. On the other hand, if you think about this like a mind experiment, when you look at your profit and loss statement, your revenue, of course, is 100%. Let's say that your cost of goods is 30%, leaving you with 70% margin, and 5 typically in most Canadian companies drops to the bottom line, so your costs remain at 65%. If you don't do anything with that other than increase your prices by 5%, you double your bottom line. Your margin doesn't change because you didn't sell any more goods, you just increase the price. The cost of delivery, your administration, rent, and all the other stuff around you didn't change. So you doubled your bottom line. We can do that in 5 minutes, right? I can't think of any other way to do it. But the trouble is that most of us has got into this habit of thinking that business has only got 2 legs to this stool. It's in fact got 3. It's the most powerful tool we have in the drawer, and we never use it. So I came to that conclusion after looking at hundreds of businesses, and only 1 or 2 ever figured out that they needed to have a pricing strategy that actually worked for them and at the same time managed to hang on to everything that they were trying to do. Because when you talk to people about pricing, they only have 2 ideas about how to price. 1, follow the leader. If everybody else out there is charging $35 for whatever it is, I'm going to charge $35 as well. So for example, there was a belt that I had a hardware store. So I used to sell this belt. We sold loads, hundreds and hundreds every year. I know that I paid 99 cents for them. And I know that everybody else in town was charging $5.99 for them. And I changed my price to $11.99. And nobody said a word. Nobody squeaked. I was able to pocket that extra money, which helped me cover my costs, my rent, my staff. But I knew my customers. If I had stuck to the margin-only model, I would have left a chunk of money on the table.
So does that mean we should all just jack up our prices?
Good question. And for some people, yes. We are in a time of rapid inflation, so it's relatively simple to get away with it. But most of my consulting work was done when there was no inflation. And trying to get a price increase across your customers was very difficult because, of course, someone's going to react. Someone's going to say, I don't want to pay this. And you end up losing customers. So we have to find a better way. And the better way starts with that awful thing in all the business books, your unique selling proposition. Because once you've got a unique selling proposition, then you were able to put a price on it. So to give you an illustration, when I was working for the Chicago company, I would arrive in town the night before, go to a motel, hotel, or whatever it is. In those days, there were yellow pages. I go to the yellow pages always in the drawer of the side table, take it out, look them up in there, find their page, and forgive me, but I used to tear it out. And of course, all of it came with their competitors, right? 2 or 3 pages either side. I take all that with me. And then I would go down and begin my interview with them. I'd say, why do people buy from you? The answers were inevitably, well, because we've been in business for a really long time. And so your competitors all say that too. Oh, well, we've got really friendly staff. Well, everybody says that, and it doesn't mean anything. We all know that. And by the time I'd ground on these poor guys for a while, they'd finally say, we're cheaper. I said, okay, now do we understand why you have a financial problem? Yeah. So you can get to better pricing, but you have to prove value to your potential customer, to your existing customers.
Is there a way to improve my profits without losing customers?
Yes, quite definitely. Not only not lose customers, but gain lots of them. But it goes back in part to what I just said, which is you have to demonstrate in very tangible ways what it is that you're offering that is valuable to the customer. The best example I can think of is champagne. So when you look at a bottle of champagne, you go to the liquor store, there on the shelf is still white wine. Next to it is champagne. There's a massive difference in the price between the two. Is it to do with cost? No. The people who make champagne have convinced us of is it is a very important addition to your celebrations. So your anniversaries, your birthdays, your Christmas, New Year's Eve, all of those things are celebrated with champagne. And if you're really doubtful about that, try taking home a couple of cans of Pepsi for your anniversary and see who's going to be sleeping on the sofa that night. Champagne does work. They convince it's brand. If they can do that with wine, why can't you do that with your business? Pull something out which is unique, the bubbles. Pull out this is really special. What you're doing is truly special. Why can't you prove that?
Have you had experience of companies doing this?
Yes, let's stick with the boat people because that's an important one, right? So we started with this list that was about, I don't know, say 8 or 10 items, maybe 15 items long. So the next step was to say, okay, what price are you going to put on all of this stuff, which is a difficult thing to do. So we went back to that, constructed a break-even pro forma and decided here's what your price has to be to earn that kind of money that you wanted to have. And then we moved it up a bit from there to give them a cushion, and that became their price for their premium service. Then we took that same list, and we chucked out 4 things, and we reduced the price. The things we chucked out were what costed money. Stainless steel chain is much more expensive than regular zinc-plated chain, and a bunch of other things that didn't. We're not going to go for this price. We're not going to go to the top of the North Arm. Not going to work. So we didn't do that. We took value out and reduced the price. Their margins remained identical. And then we did it again for the third one. We took out more value and reduced the price again. Margins remain the same all the way through. And you always need 3 because it's the Goldilocks effect, right? Not too hot, not too cold, just right. I got an opportunity to renovate a bathroom. Mr. and Mrs. Wheeler phoned me from Richmond. We want you to renovate this bathroom. So I gave them a price. And I said, it's going to cost you, I think it was $5,000. And their face fell, both of them. This is a bit more than you planned on? Yes. How much did you plan on spending? $4,000. We're kind of hoping to do it for 4. I said, that's not a problem. Now, at this point, I had 2 choices. I could take out my wallet and give them $1,000 because that's essentially what I would have done. If it's so, I'll just drop the price to 4. I said, no, it's not a problem. Look, I put in an expensive pedestal sink. We don't have to have that. I gave you a beveled mirror. We don't have to have that. Something absolutely. And I did that. I took value out of it and we got down to the 4,000 and I walked out of there with the contract and a deposit. And we started work 3 days later and I made money on it.
If my company needed help, what would be the next steps?
Typically, the way that I operate is I chat to somebody for an hour to find out about them, about their business. The target for me is to understand if I can help. And if at the end I can, then we begin with exactly how I've been describing it here. It's the USP. We make up the 3 different, the Goldilocks pricing method, so that we get it right. We make sure that it fits with the numbers, right? There's a little twist here. So I did this for a fellow here in town with a hearing aid company. At that point, he had 14 price points. Too many. We brought it down to 3. The middle one is the one we want to sell. And because he only had 3, and because he started by selling the premium one first, oh, that's too much money. Not a problem. We can move down to this one here. That's where he sold them all. He made the most money. 3, everybody's comfortable with. 4, you've lost them. There's too many choices. And it always comes back to the same thing, the Goldilocks effect. 3 choices, no more, and no less.
How does having a clear pricing strategy reduce the owner's cognitive load and decision fatigue?
You're right. I came to the conclusion after chatting with a friend of mine that of all my customers, they're all repeat customers, commercial customers, that they all knew the prices of 10 things and only 10 things intimately. And so this software that I purchased and installed was meant to pick that out so that someone who's comfortable paying X price for something, that would be his price or her price, the company's price. But someone who's sensitive to that, say, that's a little high, I can give them a tiny little jump down and that would remain their price. The difficulty with it, when it worked, great, but it's a constant monitoring exercise. And you have to listen very carefully to your customers. And if you have, like a lot of companies do, 10 or 15 salespeople, it's out of control. When I talk to people, find out whether I can help, we begin with the UST, we get to the 3 prices, we work on this. Then we teach how to sell a price, and we teach them how to work this into their system so that it doesn't fall apart. There are quite literally dozens and dozens and dozens of pricing strategies, hence the books. They will all wear out after a while. So you have to be prepared to move on. So it's a constant learning curve. How do I do this? How do I cope with this? Which means not necessarily revisiting me, but certainly read the books, because they're the critical part. They outline everything. And you pick one that, oh, well, nobody else is doing this, I'll try this. And 2 or 3 years later, it's been working great, but suddenly it's not working great. They have to change again. And I know this because that's what Walmart does, Apple does, Exxon does. All the big names, they change their pricing strategy every 2 or 3 years.
Okay, last question. What are the indicators that it's time to change your pricing strategy?
You start to get the pushback from your customers. Price is too high. This guy over here is doing it. Some of these peeling away some of your customers. That's usually the indicator. I used to deal with Bob over there, but he doesn't deal with me anymore. You have to figure out why he went. There's plenty of things like that you could do nothing about, but they will wear out. In the financial industry, in which I've worked for 20 odd years, it's know your customer. And it's important for a lot of different reasons, but it does make a ton of sense. If you know what your customer is doing and why, and have an understanding of the things that they're going through, you can help them a lot more. And they're red flags that tell you the business is in trouble, typically fixable.